So first of all, I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their busy schedules to view this webinar. I know everybody's schedules are very, very, very tight, but we've had a lot of really good feedback for this webinar. So much so that, we've kept it going for many years now with obviously some different updates. But we see the same people coming back repeatedly because there is so much incredible information that Howard presents here that it's hard to really absorb it all in just one viewing. So definitely feel free at any point to come back and view the webinar, sign up for it. We also do have an on-demand webinar that's not quite as in-depth as what this one is, but it's at aiaspec.com, and you can go on there and you can view it at your leisure. Again, it's not going to give you all the same information, but there's going to be a lot of stuff on there that is the same in both webinars. My name is Jason Spangler. I'm the flooring division manager here at Wagner Meters. I'm responsible for not only the concrete moisture testing side of things with the Rapid RH product line, but I'm also responsible for our small line of Orion hand meters that are intended for measuring wood, subfloors, finished wood products that you're going to be putting down on those floors, so forth and so on. We are going to do a Q&A. If there is any questions or there are any questions, please type them in. I'll get to as many of them as possible. What I will say is that it seems like, at least for me, it seems like when I do things like this, I always think of my best questions after the fact. So if there's anything that you come up with after the fact, or for some reason I don't get a chance to get to your questions, please don't hesitate to give me a call directly. My phone number is 800-634-9961. It's extension 235. So before we get off into the Q&A section, I'll take a couple of seconds to make a shameless plug, or at least a shameless announcement about the changes that we've had to the Rapid RH product line. For those of you who don't know, on May 13th this year, we transitioned from the orange version of the Rapid RH 4.0 EX sensor or system. We transitioned to what we call the Rapid RH L6. So not only have we transitioned from one technology, or we just moved the technology, if you will. As technology changes, we like to stay ahead of the curve to give you, the customer, the best product that we can give you. You're going to find that the color has also changed. For those who have seen me before, usually I'm wearing nothing but orange. You can tell the shirt is bright green, but the glasses are still orange. I'm somewhat conflicted with this color change. So the new L6, they are now green. So green is the new orange. Orange and green are not compatible with each other. And there's very good reasons for it, because again, the technology has changed. So what are the differences? First of all, in the sensor itself, we've actually come up with had the sensor manufacturer come up with a custom sensor for us that is more responsive in those 90 to 100% relative humidity ranges. So what that means to you is that the sensor will respond quicker to actual changes in the concrete. There's also in the sensor onboard memory, so that every time you take a reading in the sensor, that information's stored. Great thing about that is you can extract that information and upload it to an app that we have, the DataMaster L6 app, for reporting and other kinds of seamless integration of the data. The other part of it is that, in theory, once the floor is installed, if something does happen to it, somebody could come back at any time and actually extract that data, so that you would have proof that any of the information you were giving them pre-installation also jived with the information that they were able to extract out of the sensor post-installation. For those of you who have used the Rapid RH 4.0, the orange devices, part of the feedback we got from the readers were that the pins that are on the bottom of the reader tend to be a little bit more delicate than most would want. So we drastically increased the robustness of those pins. And I like to tell people humorously that if you bend or break those pins, you have made it your life's ambition to do so, because we have increased the ruggedness of those substantially. The other piece is with the 4.0 EX or the orange version, we had a standard reader that had the LCD display, and then you would handwrite your information. Or we had the option for you to use a Bluetooth version that would pull the information from the sensor and upload it to the previous version of the app. We've now taken those two pieces and put them together so you don't have to have two different readers in your bag. If you still choose to want to just use the LCD, you have that option. If you want to use the Bluetooth functionality, it's in that same reader. So you don't have to worry about having two different devices. The other thing is that the caps, feedback that we got from the marketplace is the fact that the caps tended to come off or disappear on an active job site. You'd put the caps down, they didn't seal well enough, so when you would come back to take readings 24 hours later, there wouldn't be caps. Most people would use duct tape to keep them down, and that worked out okay. What we've done now with the new L6 or green caps is there is a butyl rubber on the actual cap itself. So there's release paper. You pull the release paper back, make sure the surface of the concrete's clean. You put the cap down after you've installed the sensor, and then there's a rubber plug in the sensor in the middle of that cap that you can pull off to be able to put your reader down and take a reading from the sensor. So those are some of the changes that we've made. You know, obviously, a lot of them are very, very big changes. I think you're going to be extremely happy with the new product. For anybody who's still using the 4.0 orange stuff, obviously those sensors are very, very, very good. Just keep using them. But when you get to that point that you need to, get more sensors, just keep in mind that you're going to be probably converting over to the new L6. What we've done, because orange and green are not compatible with each other, is we have set up a situation where if you buy a 25 pack, 50 pack, or 100 pack between now and May of 2020, we are going to include one of those brand new total readers inside the pack of sensors. So in essence, to make that transition is going to cost you little to nothing to do. So anyway, that's me. I'll jump off the soapbox now at that point. If you have any questions about the L6, don't hesitate to give me a call. So a couple of the questions that we get a lot about is the fact on the webinar, we hear about the measurements that you get from these sensors or the ASTM specification directly talks about depth specific measurements. So in order to be able to understand how deep to drill a hole, you have to understand how thick the slab is. And people will always ask, well, how do I know that? So if we're talking renovations, there's usually, there can be trenching that's being done as far as slab on grades. There can be tells as far as sometimes there's going to be different penetrations that will have to be put into the slab itself. Old construction documents. If you're talking about building maintenance, they usually keep records of any of the old construction documents. Worst case scenario, I have people out in the field that will take a smaller diameter drill bit, drill a couple of holes in opposite ends of the building to be able to get some comparative information, drill all the way through the slab, take a piece of flexible wire, make a J out of it, push it down in the hole until it springs out the bottom. When you pull it up and you feel resistance, you're hooked on the bottom of the slab. Mark it with a Sharpie. When you pull it out, you can see where the Sharpie mark's at, and you can see where the partial radius is for the J that you put into it. Compare that information, you have a pretty good idea, what's going on. That in and of itself is more of a slab on grade, slab below grade. If you're talking elevated slabs, if you look at penetrations that are coming through the floor, a lot of times they're not tight to the floor. There'll be bigger access, so you should be able to get some idea of if it's a pan, what the pan looks like and how thick it is. The other question I get is about pans. What is it? Where do I drill? How deep do I drill? Do I use the thinner portion of the pan or the thicker portion of the pan? So the standard says to use the thickest portion of the pan to calculate your drill depth. And that drill depth, because the slab is only drying from one side, is to a 40% thickness or a 40% of what that deepest section is. You also want to identify, or do the best you can to identify where that deepest section is and drill in that area. So what we'll have people do at times is we'll have people that will purchase what I would classify a fairly inexpensive tool. metal detector that works a lot like, it's a small handheld metal detector that works a lot like a wood stud finder in a wall. You can scan the surface of the concrete, and what it'll do is the scan penetration is deep enough to pick up the high part of the metal pan deck. So you can scan it, mark there, scan over here, mark there where the two high spots are at, and then right in the middle is where that deepest section is. So, again, you're still looking to try to find things like those penetrations that are coming through the floor to get an overall understanding of what that profile of the pan deck is, as far as how deep is deep and how thin is thin. But once you have that, you calculate 40% and go in that deepest section. So it doesn't look like that we have any more questions. Again, my name is Jason Spangler, and my phone number is 800-634-9961, extension 235. If there's anything that we can do for you in the future, please don't hesitate to give us a call. Thanks, and have a great day.